And this KD session is going to be on an introduction to Scrum. I'm sure most of us are familiar with some of the project management methodologies that exist currently. We have Waterfall, we have the Agile project management methodologies, and a lot of others. So Scrum is basically a framework under the Agile project management methodology. So under Agile, we have two most prominent ones, which is Scrum and Kanban. And I'm going to be taking on just an introduction up to Scrum because there's a lot for us to cover, but this session is just going to be on the introduction alone. So the term Scrum was actually coined from the game rugby. So basically, what it means is that it just means the coming together of a team or a group of players coming together, which is why the term was derived from that, because Scrum emphasizes teamwork. You all need to work as a team in order for the software product to be shipped on time, delivered on time, and for it to be of good quality. And this is what Scrum emphasizes. So typically, this is what Scrum looks like. This is how it happens. So you have the product backlog here. You have the sprint backlog, you have the sprints here, and then you have a potentially shippable products. So basically, under Scrum, a software development team would appoint there would be a product manager for that software or that solution. There would be a Scrum Master, which could either be a project manager or a team lead, and then there's the Scrum team. So what the team is trying to do is to ensure that the software is delivered on time, but the solution that is being delivered is of good quality. So these are the things that have to be in place. First, the product manager decides from there. You have a product backlog here, and from there, the product manager decides what goes into the sprint backlog. So the product backlog simply refers to those things those features that have to be developed and added to the software. Now, these things can come from user research, from market research, or user requests, and a lot of sources that we're not going to be mentioning, covering in this introduction to Scrum. And so the product manager decides what goes into the sprint backlog. Now, it is from this sprint backlog that the Scrum team picks maybe one or two or three features to work on in something called a sprint. A sprint typically, which is this here, a sprint typically is supposed to last between 2 to 4 weeks, typically. So what happens is that during this sprint, the software development team, the team focuses on developing those features that are in the sprint backlog. And for every single day of that sprint week, there's usually a daily Scrum meeting. So I'm going to cover this I'm going to cover this later during this presentation, but I just need to understand that there's something called a daily Scrum meeting. So what a daily Scrum meeting is basically just a 15-minute stand-up meeting session that has to happen every single day. Now, during this session, the team goes over, it is usually a stand-up session, so there is no sitting down because those that because it is believed that if a meeting is held while the members are sitting down, the meeting is going to take longer and that would waste time. So what teams are advised to do is that they should hold these stand-up meetings while standing up, which is why it's actually called a stand-up meeting. So here, during the sprint period, once once features are taken from the backlog, they are locked in this sprint. They have to be finished within this sprint. Hence, no new feature is allowed to be added to the sprint backlog, to the sprint. It's like once the team chooses that they want to work on maybe 5 or 10 features for a solution, within that 2 to 4 weeks, nothing new must come from this product backlog. So that's just going to disrupt the flow and it's going to eventually lead to a poor software in the end. So this is an example of a Scrum team. You have your product owner. You have your Scrum Master, who is either a project manager or the team lead of the software development team, and then you have your team itself. Now, this team can comprise of maybe front-end developers, back-end developers, even customer experience at times, customer service at times. It all depends on what software the team is building. Now, the Scrum team is expected to do these following things. This is like, it's an iterative process, which means after planning, they have to implement what they plan, they have to test it, demo it, inspect and adapt it. And they have to keep doing this every 2 weeks. So it is an iterative way of building software products, as opposed to a waterfall approach. In waterfall, one feature has to be done first before another feature. Planning has to be done first before implementation. Um, Planning might take, it depends on the software product, but some companies might plan for as long as 1 month, then they will now start implementing what they planned for a very long time. And this is not an ideal way of building software because the needs of the consumers, the needs of the market changes over time, which is why Scrum is much more recommended for software development. Now, I'm not saying waterfall is not a good product project management methodology. It is good it has its own strengths in some other industries. Also, some software products too might benefit from using waterfall approach. For instance, you are building something that you can't just keep changing over and over again. Let's say you are building an operating system. You can't keep changing too many things and keep giving your end users several updates and patches. You have to ensure that the software is complete first before it is shipped. But oftentimes, maybe you are in software development, maybe you are building, let's say, a web app. You can just keep making changes and keep delivering updates to your users and keep getting feedback from them by using Scrum. And waterfall, waterfall would not fit well in this kind of situation. Also, the waterfall approach is also it's also advised, also good to use in maybe a construction industry. You can't say you want to build a bridge or a building iteratively. It doesn't work like that. You can't say, okay, you build, like you are building a skyscraper. You can't say you just build 3 floors first. You build 3 floors first and you ask people to move in and test the skyscraper before you continue building. It doesn't work like that, but it works well for software development. So the product owner, the product owner basically is the one that defines the features of the product. He's the one that determines what the team is going to build. Basically, he's the one that has, let's say, complete ownership of the product. That's why it's called the product owner. It's the one that has to account for the product. So the profitability of the product depends. He is responsible for the profitability of the product, which is why he has to make the decisions when deciding on what features have to be built for the solution. Also, he prioritizes features according to market value. He's the one that determines that. He adjusts features and priority every iteration as needed. And also, he accepts or rejects work results. He's the one that decides whether what the team has built is acceptable or whether it's acceptable or not. Then you have the Scrum Master. So like I said, the Scrum Master can either be your project manager or your team lead. So it all depends on how the organization is structured. But basically, the Scrum Master represents management to the project. It's basically the project manager in simple terms. Is one responsible for enacting Scrum values and practices. It removes impediments. When team members are facing issues, they report to the Scrum Master first, and he tries as much as possible to sort these things out so that team members can do their job and the software is going to be shipped as early as possible in good quality. So he also ensures that the team is fully functional and productive, and he enables close cooperation across all roles and functions, and he shields the team from external interferences. So it's like the middleman between the developers and the product manager and the outside world, basically. So developers can focus on writing code while he does, while people can just reach out to him, and he serves as the contact point between the product owner or the outside world and the developer. So developers can focus on writing effective code, clean and effective code. Then you have the Scrum team. So a Scrum team typically is like between 5 to 9 people. So they're usually in small groups, not like we have 100 people on a Scrum team. And they are cross-functional. You will have programmers, testers, user experience designers, backend developers, front-end developers, all of them cross-functional people in a Scrum team. Members also should be full-time, but there are exceptions too. You can hire a Scrum team can hire maybe a contractor just to work on that, product for just a short period of time. Teams are self-organizing, and also membership should change only between sprints. It's not that when a sprint is ongoing, then the company now decides to switch one team member with another one for whatever reason that may be. It is not advised because that would disrupt the flow of the sprint and to eventually lead to a poor software product. So planning in Scrum is kind of it's an iterative process as well, and I'm going to be breaking that down here. So the teams create a sprint backlog from backlog items of highest priority. Like I explained before, it is from the sprint backlog that the team is going to decide what software features they want to build for doing a sprint, and they take the sprint backlog from a product backlog. Then the team defines the sprint goal based on the items that are planned for the current sprint. They break down the sprint backlog features into tasks. Now, these features are big, like they are high-level concepts. For instance, you're building a website and you just say, okay, we want the website to be able to send emails to end users after they've registered. Now, that is a feature, but you have to break that down into several tasks. The team has to break it down into several tasks. There are a lot of things that go into building such a feature. So typically tasks are created in such a way that each task can be completed in one day. Yes, that is how the tasks are broken down. So the tasks are broken down in such a way that when a team member is assigned such a task, they should be able to finish it within one day. It's not like they won't break the task down well enough for each team member to finish it in a day. So this is how to visualize it. Here you have your product backlog here, the prioritized product backlog. And these are several features that are on the current product backlog. But the team cannot just jump on all these things at the same time and start working on them. They have to break them down into several bits, which is why they have to decide what goes into the sprint backlog. So from here, the team chooses just two features, which is returns and coupons at the top here. These two features. And now it is from these two sprint backlog that the sprint goal is determined. It's not that they're just going to jump on working on these two things at the same time. They can still take just maybe one out of these two features. They can just take maybe the coupons features or the returns features. And it's from there that the sprint goal is going to be established. So from the sprint goal, you have your sprint backlog here. Now the team breaks it down into several tasks. See, this task, visual design is 4 hours, service classes is 2 hours, test cases 3 hours, 2 hours, and these tasks are broken down in such a way that they should be able to be, the team should be able to complete these tasks within a day, so it doesn't spill over to the next day and it doesn't disrupt the sprint. So they plan everything in such a way that they should be able to finish the sprint backlog within 2 weeks. So I mentioned the daily Scrum, and it is usually just a 15 minutes meeting. It should not be more than 15 minutes, ideally. So 3 questions are asked during this daily Scrum. What did you do yesterday? The Scrum Master asks each team member, what did you do yesterday? What will you do today? And is there anything in your way? And from there, they get feedback from the developers to see how things are going. And these are just 3 questions, but they go a long way in determining success, how successful and how effective the team is. Because we don't ask developers these questions well enough. We just assume that they are doing fine, everything is going fine as far as they are delivering. But they might be facing some issues that we do not know about. And if we do not ask them, they will not see anything. It happens all the time. So do you have your Kanban board? And yeah, so they have a board here where they used to track the progress of each task. So you have your not checked out. It depends on the organization might decide to label this as maybe pending, to do, or done. It just depends on however they want to do their things. But basically, the core foundations is that this is a Scrum framework. So after a sprint, after 2 weeks has elapsed, 2 weeks or 4 weeks, depending on the organization, depending on how they plan their sprints. After 2 weeks has elapsed, there's something called a sprint review and then a sprint retrospective. Under a sprint review, um, so what I sprint review, the team presents what they have accomplished, they demo new features developed or underlying architecture, and then they just allow people to see what they've done basically. Then another sprint retrospective, they discuss the last results of the sprint. They go through what went right and what went wrong. They decide whether they need their things they need to change, whether their processes they need to further improve in order for the next sprint to be better. So basically, doing Scrum, doing a typical sprint, these are the things that happen. So there's sprint planning, there's daily Scrum, there's sprint review, sprint retrospective, and then another sprint planning. So this takes the whole of 2 weeks. Usually, the daily Scrum takes the most time. The most time, yeah, since it's 15 minutes per day, so it takes much more time than other meetings in Scrum. So these are the practices during a sprint. During a sprint, these are some of the things that is a peculiarity of Scrum. Test-driven development is one of the core practices of Scrum. Peer programming, where developers are encouraged to peer program. They don't just work on a problem on their own. They work together on a problem. Continuous integration, whereby changes to a software product are pushed using continuous development or continuous integration, and there are several other practices as well. So basically, Scrum is agile. It delivers highest customer value first. It focuses on planning than on plan. It builds working software at rapid and repetitive pace. It builds self-organizing team. These are one of the core features of Scrum, which are also the core features of Agile. So customer value first is one of the core concepts of Agile, which is why software is developed in an iterative process, where customer feedback is being taken and used to further modify the software and make it better. It's not like they will just focus on building the software. You spend maybe 1 year on it, and they will now provide a solution that no one wants to use, that no one likes, since they didn't get feedback from the end users. So if there are any questions you can ask, and also I'll be creating a question and answer segment using elements of Bincom.net. Just visit that, you'll see there. And well, we're done with this session. Good day. Have a nice day.